Hello and welcome to the Hoof GP. This cow was trimmed about 6 weeks ago. She had a hugely pedunculated ulcer on this back right foot, and today we are revisiting her, hopefully to ensure she continues to heal. So this is 6 weeks ago. As you can see, when we first picked up this cow, you could already clearly see a hugely bulbous ulcer hanging out the bottom of this back right foot, and there was dermatitis affecting the outer portion of the ulcer, making it much harder for us to trim and deal with. We trimmed around the ulcer as carefully as we possibly could and removed every little piece of overburdening detached hoof horn. When we'd finished, this was the state of her foot. Clearly we hadn't removed the ulcer and it was still an issue, but that block would hopefully take the weight and therefore the pain away from this back right foot. Well, fast forward 6 weeks to today, and this is how it's looking now. Not fully healed. Clearly we can still see that ulcer sticking out the bottom of this foot. There's still some dermatitis attacking it, but this block is still firmly in place thanks to my glue. If we look from the side of the foot though, the block is still doing its job, but only in part. That ulcer and that outer claw will be in contact with the floor, so we're going to double this block up by adding another one to raise the sore foot completely off the ground. And we're going to do that first. Clearly these blocks are made of wood and therefore they're porous, so we need to make sure they are completely dry if we're leaving them on, so that the next one will stick fast in place and there'll be no chance of it coming off. It's actually looking fairly good. The black hoof horn is black from staining from the slurry, telling us that this part of the foot is not in contact with the ground at all. The ulcer looks slightly flattened, so it has been touching the ground, but this part is where she's been touching the ground, and that's what's been worrying us. Ideally, we would see all of this blackened. It's this colour because it's being worn away as she actually steps on it, which is the last thing we want when you get that kind of thing hanging out the bottom of your foot. This is progress. It definitely looks better than the first time we were here, but clearly not perfect. I'm happy with this though. What we must have done the last time is doing the job. You can see layers of hoof horn here built up against the side of that ulcer. They'll be jagging into it, so I need to get the edge of my knife right in there and pry it away. Oh! If you look up inside, this ulcer is overhanging in there. That is a problem. If you look at the side of this ulcer, look, I can get my knife in behind that bit of hoof horn, look. You see it? I can get the edge behind it. This part of the hoof horn is sticking into that protruding and proud flesh. So every time she steps, it's literally jagging into her. Oh, carefully, carefully, Graham. Around the back as well. This is why we call it pedunculated. If you look at the back of the ulcer here, you can actually see it's overhanging. You can move it. You can see this is connected by a thinner stalk that goes right into the core of her foot down in here. And that pedunculation basically means hanging by a stalk connected to a more bulbous piece of material. That's exactly what is happening here. I'm going to clean this off as much as we can. We don't want to cut that off at all, because then we're going to have an open lesion. We want to shrivel it up and shrink it down. As this shrivels up, it'll turn into hoof horn underneath. I'm trying to decide whether or not to wrap it. In some respects, wrapping is fantastic because it'll keep the product in contact with the ulcer for as long as possible. But it'll also trap some moisture in there, which will prevent it from drying out. I'm spraying it down with iodine, and we're going to wrap it with as much salicylic acid, covered and coated and saturated in iodine to try to shrink this up. There is a prevalence of digital dermatitis at this farm, and I don't want that ulcer to be infected by that. I think I've told you before that these are biodegradable wraps. They break down in a matter of about a week and a half or 2 weeks. So they can actually be left on the cows as long as they don't tighten and become an issue. Our farmers are really good though. We really monitor these cows, and if these wraps did become an issue prematurely, they would be cut off. And now we're just about to see our exiting the crush today. Don't expect miracles. She still has the ulcer. It's still sore. The corium is still inflamed. She's not going to be walking fantastically.
But actually, she surprises me. And although she is definitely not walking perfectly, she is walking much, much better than I was expecting. The story is clearly not over for this cow. It's just the beginning, but it does look like, eventually, she will have her happily ever after.